Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio and the Spirit Society of Virginia, here in our Friday Inspirational Talks. We are here with you for a very special evening, yes, because we're going to talk about Be Responsible, Vaccinate. What does Spiritism have to do with it? Why do we need to vaccinate? What do the spirits say about it? Is there any information for us regarding it? Where are we in regard to that? Well, we have lots of questions, and we have a team that is here prepared to the best of our abilities to share with you information that may be quite useful, clarify doubts, and really encourage us to a new step towards a better earth. Now, before we begin, we're going to invite our dear friend Camila, who is here to read our initial message. Remember, the message that is read here is a way for us to connect with this frequency. This is a moment for us to cherish our spirituality. So let us join in and listen to Camila as she reads a message for us. Right, Camila?
That's right, Vanessa. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Tonight, we will read a message called Regarding the Sick by the Spirit André Luiz, psychographed by Chico Xavier from the book Conduta Espírita. Create around those who are sick a positive, trusting atmosphere through prayers, vibrations, and loving words, strength, and optimism. The work of rehabilitating the body is based on the rehabilitation of the spirit. Even if you are linked closely by the heart, do not allow yourself to be discouraged when faced with those who are sick. Rather, bestow on them elevated sentiments and faith, avoiding exhortations of pity or sadness. Despair is invisible fire. Whenever necessary, address the role that pain has on our pathway without any unhappy lamentations. Resignation derives from trust. Under no circumstance, promise cures or establish a timeline for the complete healing of the sick, in particular to those who are obsessed. Otherwise, you may risk incurring thoughtfulness. Above all, follow the wise will of the Sublime Father. Pay attention to and be affectionate towards anguished and suffering hearts, without speaking or acting in any way to humiliate them with your positions or convictions, seeking to tend to their physical and moral needs within your available resources. The effective improvement of the soul is rooted in perfect solidarity. Seek with happiness in service of your own regeneration to live for prolonged periods of time with relatives or friends that are suffering with disabilities, mental instabilities, or stubborn illnesses. The antidote to evil is persevering in the good. And we end this message with a passage of Jesus. Verily, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did to me.
Thank you so much, Camila, for choosing such an inspiring message. And now we invite everyone to take another step with us together. It's a moment of collective prayer. Prayer is so powerful. In the book Psychophonic Instructions, we know a message we've studied here at Kardec Radio at 11 p.m., a message about healing prayer. And any prayer is a healing prayer. It contains elements that are deeply powerful. So let us join forces and go within, feel God embracing us with his providence, and pray. Dear God, we have come to know that you are abundantly enveloping us in love, in kindness, in protection. Everywhere we are, and everyone we're with, your presence is always there. And yet, in our daily decisions, we forget about the reasons why you've created us. And we make decisions thinking, like the prodigal son, I do what I want, whenever I want, the way I want. And here we are, facing a pandemic that is asking us to revisit the most fundamental relationship in our lives, our relationship with you. Tonight, we want to feel you. Feel your presence as we understand the beautiful dynamics of our immune system, the beautiful dynamics of our relationships and our personal responsibility in everything. Being your co-creators. Yes, we evoke the presence of the spirit mentors, those who have prepared this session for all of us. May every spirit protector, guardian angel in our lives, and the doctors, nurses, and therapists of the beyond find in each one of us a good-willed heart, open to the new, open to transformation, and to deep empowerment, so we can fulfill your will of love, charity, and justice today and forever. And so be it. All right. So we begin today before the main topic with the Spirit's book moment. And Paloma is here with us to kindly share this moment, right, Paloma?
Right. And today we're going to study question 928. Kardec asked the spirits, through the specialization of natural aptitudes, God evidently indicates our vocation in this world. Don't many misfortunes result from our not following this vocation? This is a big question because we're always like, oh, what is my vocation? What am I supposed to do? And Kardec is asking the same question. Key for us to pay attention here is when he says natural aptitudes. What does that mean? Is that skill that came already very naturally? You didn't have to develop, right? We see that with a lot of like art and music. They just come with it. It came naturally. So God gave us a hint. What happens? What happens if we don't follow our natural aptitudes? The answer is striking because the spirits go to talk about the parents. It says, that is true. Parents are frequently the ones who, through pride or greed, make their children deviate from the path outlined by nature, a diversion that jeopardizes the latter's happiness. And now this highlight for us. For that, the parents shall be held accountable. And I'll give examples, but it doesn't need to be this. I'm just thinking, some simple things like somebody come maybe with a very artistic talent and says, I want to be a painter. And the parents, maybe very conservative, says, not a painter. You won't make any money. You won't be anything. You need to be a lawyer. And if the son or daughter follows that, most likely there will be a lot of frustration. And with a lot of frustration, the good spirit says that it could lead us to suicide. I'll read to you what exactly is on the book. So I quote exactly what they're saying. The influence of pride prevents the hapless individual from seeking work in more humble occupations. So instead of us following what we were meant to do with our natural aptitudes, because of pride, we choose a different way, rendering suicide a solution for what he considers a humiliation. And if we go in the book, Memoirs of a Suicide, we're going to see situations, examples there where somebody felt humiliated because there was a change in status, their social status, their financial status, and they resorted to suicide. So friends, this is a reminder for us parents to see in our children these aptitudes and help them look for something that will bring them happiness by developing it more, by applying it more. But also, when we see in ourselves these aptitudes, let us find way to use it. And if you're saying, oh, but I have a job and, it's not what I like to do. Okay, sometimes life is hard, but find ways that you can use your natural aptitude. God gave something to each one of us. It's just a matter of us paying attention to it.
Thank you so much, Paloma, for this. And now we want to share with everyone that the topic that we're going to discuss today about vaccination is going to be a teamwork effort. Daisy, Shane, and I will be joining forces to share why it's so important to vaccinate. So let's go one step at a time. Let me share a few images here so we can together. Just a second. All right. Let's go here. So this is the flyer of the campaign that Kardec Radio, the Spirit Side of Virginia, the Spiritist group in DC, have put together as an effort to join the government in the United States in the campaign that was ostensibly released since the new administration, reaching 200 million vaccinated people as of today, and now available to 16 years old and up since April 19th. The campaign is very important, and you may be asking why. Some people, when they consider themselves to be truly spiritual, right? They think, oh, I'm so spiritual that I don't think we just trust God. We trust God and we go with the flow. That's not how we think. Let's go to Spiritism and ask. And in this book that is not yet translated, O Consolador, the Consoler by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, in this book, there's a question about how the spiritual realm sees terrestrial medicine. Because many people now, they doubt the very medicine on earth. How do the superior spirits think of it? And this is a question and answer in this book, 94, question 94. And the answer is human medicine, understood and applied within its higher ends, constitutes a noble spiritual mission. So, of course, it's still made by humans, but it's a noble mission to bring solutions to a better life when we are incarnated. Then, the other question following to that in that book is about, in the face of the efforts of medicine, how should we consider health? Now, this is a new concept. If medicine can represent a noble effort on earth, what about health? We need to understand, because what are we seeking? To be in this body for immortality? Well, for humanity on earth, says Emmanuel, health can mean the perfect balance of material organs. For the spiritual plane, however, health is the perfect harmony of the soul. To obtain which many times there is the need for the precious contribution of earth's transient diseases and deficiencies. So at this very point, you and I are redefining the concept of health. We aim at supporting people through their learning experiences in an incarnation or reincarnation. Yes, diseases are inevitable in the sense of, yeah, we can prevent, but at some point till death, because death and taxes are inevitable. Ben Franklin said it, and it's true. On earth, it's a reality. Between birth and death, we're going to encounter impairments, problems, issues, illnesses, diseases. And to achieve that harmony of the soul, which is true health, diseases and etc., help us achieve it. How so? It's all about the expunging of nodules, knots of vibratory disturbance that we have accumulated for millennia in our spiritual body. Everything that we do, say, think, and feel inevitably stays recorded in our perispirit, our spiritual body. And whenever we make a grave mistake, says André Luiz in the book Evolution into Worlds, chapter 19, part 2, whenever we make a grave mistake, inevitably, it's almost like clogging the filter of our conscience and creating knots of vibratory disturbance in our spiritual body. So how do we heal it to find this true concept of harmony that Emmanuel is saying? Expunging through illnesses. Expunging through illnesses. Or by loving. But we still resist, right? We're like, no, I'm going to send that person flowers, but doesn't need to be exuberant. Why not? If you love, you love. There's no like love just 50%, 20%. Yeah, I'm going to give a little kiss, but not too much because I don't want the people. It doesn't matter what people, if they are going to take it for granted or not. When Jesus came, he loved us fully. He didn't withheld the love within himself. Till then, we will have to expunge through illnesses. And now we have a collective moment happening in our earth. All of us inevitably on earth will face the virus. The virus is not going to go away because there is no measure whatsoever to kill the virus. It's not like a bug that I go there and kill the bug. The virus is going to be here till God knows when, and the variants are going to come along. And this is not the first pandemic of the earth, and unfortunately, it's not going to be the last. So, what does that mean? How am I going to face this virus? How am I going to prepare myself? Is the vaccine enough? No, but it's certainly a therapeutic pathway that is a must at this point. Before we go there, there's more for us to realize. When they asked Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, why? Will spirit entities not be allowed to reveal the healing of certain diseases like cancer? And then we added COVID-19. He said, other diseases, cancer, COVID-19. We are adding now. Because they know the answer. Many people, when they ask, you get sick, you go to the doctor, and they are going to say, oh, there's no remedy for COVID-19. And some people claim, yes, there is this, that, and the other, but they're not using because of pharmaceutical companies. And why the spiritual entities of superior order don't come and push that therapeutics? Why? Answer. Before anything else, Emmanuel says, we must examine the law of trials and the necessity of their full implementation. The spiritual plane cannot break the rhythm of the laws of self-effort, just as the direction of a school cannot decipher the problems related to the evolution of its disciples. So first of all, when we go to the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 3, we come to know of the nature of our planet, a planet of trials and expiations. What does it mean? Planet of tests. We're here to grow, but we need to leave our inertia. One of the main problems on earth right now at our evolution is named laziness, inertia. People want the comfort zone. That's what people dream. They dream of the comfort zone from beginning to end. At any given point during the day, what can I do to make less effort? Instead of saying more effort, which is the law of progress, we find ways to shortcut here and there. So here comes the needs, the law of tests and trials, pushing us, saying, come on, come along. Law of work, be useful. You can't rest. If you dream of resting, retiring, vacation, etc., life's going to call us up. And this is exactly the mode we were before the pandemic. The luxury of doing whatever we like and finding ways to shortcut. And now we can no longer shortcut. And people are feeling overwhelmed. So the good spirits, they cannot release the therapeutics for certain illnesses until we get out of our inertia. We get out of the comfort zone. And in terms of science, scientists and society as a whole in its financial support through the government and its foundations and organizations, need to make effort. The law of self-effort, meaning I need to labor, I need to work. I cannot simply ask the Spirit and say, tell me the remedy. I've heard throughout this pandemic so many people saying, oh, I've heard of a remedy for COVID-19. Mix this, that, and the other. My friends, good spirits are not going to deliver those messages. Why? Because they don't want to help us? They can bring relief to us. But why don't they ostensibly release it to the general public? Because there is more for us to learn with it. Much more. The problem is that we rebel against it. We don't want to learn. We want the easy shortcut and the miracles. But did you know that many people who got healed by Jesus, they fell sick again? Why? Because they went back to the same old conditionings that brought them to those illnesses. And Emmanuel continues, in addition, incurable disease has profound benefits. What would become of terrestrial individuals without painful diseases that challenge their vanity? Like COVID, we're helpless. When it comes, it comes. Oh, Vanessa, but what about prayers? Does it help? Oh, yes, it does. The good spirits help. Oh, yes. But then, who is going to be spared? No one. Rich and the poor, the beautiful and not so beautiful, the young and the old, everyone. The new variants are bringing now a challenge to the youngsters. So, vanity is the target. Yes. How far? Paloma just talked about the pride, and here comes again. How far could pride and personalism of the human spirit go without the constant threat of fragile and tormented flesh? We observe the gifts of God in the field of great discoveries, mobilized for the war of extermination. When we have great wars, great discoveries, let us then, he says, contemplate with sympathy the isolated and dark hospitals where so often the human soul retreats for the necessary meditations. So now we're talking about illnesses that are still not treatable, incurable, as a way to challenge our ego. None of us are spared. We need to ask. We need to meditate. As Louise Hay says, what is this illness teaching me? What am I to teach, to learn from this? I need to meditate and pray and ask for help, for sure. And there is one more. Question 102 of the book, The Consoler, by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. Can friendly spirits act on the microbial flora in the incurable diseases, mitigating the individual sufferings? And then we would add here viruses, because this is a viral disease. And the answer, friendly entities can decrease the intensity of pain in incurable diseases, as well as keep it away completely, if that benefit can be carried out within the framework of individual tests under the wise and merciful designs of the higher plane. So for those who are kicking and screaming, saying, oh my gosh, there are remedies that can be used and people are not using because the industry, the pharmaceutics, because this man who is a millionaire is banking on the vaccines. Nonsense, complete nonsense, because according to the governance of the earth, we are going to receive the remedies for COVID-19 when we merit it as a collective. Right now, we're not there yet. So, what can we do? If we get sick, we don't have a particular remedy for it. We need to prevent. We need to prepare our bodies to face the virus because sooner or later, we're going to face it. We're going to encounter the virus. And if we are not prepared spiritually, physically, we're not going to be able to deal with it well. To understand more about how important and the mechanisms of vaccine, we're going to ask Shane to lead us into a more scientific explanation of the mechanisms of vaccine, followed by Daisy, who will tell us about some myths as well. They're going to help us understand things that probably people don't know, and once we know, it's much easier to understand and to embrace the proposal. Right, Shane?
Most definitely. Thank you for this opportunity. It's always a blessing to be together. So today we're going to talk about the coronavirus vaccine. I'm going to take an approach that is broader because the coronavirus vaccine is one of the vaccines that we have available to you and I through the medical technology of the earth. So it's important for us, before we even talk about the coronavirus vaccine, specifically COVID-19, specifically, that we break down our understanding what is a vaccine, how do they work, and how do they protect us. So as you see here, I'm going to be talking about the COVID-19. And you've seen this picture many times. If you watch the news, this is the structure and the way the virus would show to you and I under the microscope. So the scientists are able to isolate the virus and look at it, and the virus has this stubby proteins on its surface, which is called the spike protein, and it's the main target of the vaccines that we have available for coronavirus vaccine today. So what is a vaccine, dear friends? The most important part for us to understand it, it's safe, an effective way for us to protect ourselves from harmful diseases, may they be a virus or bacteria or other agents, before we actually encounter those agents in our daily lives. As Vanessa was saying, we are in touch with millions and millions and billions of viruses and bacteria daily, and we are protecting ourselves from those when we take a vaccine. So when we know that an agent is harmful, we can create a vaccine. So a vaccine is an agent that triggers our immune system to build this short and long-term protection against diseases. And the important part is for you to understand the vaccines, blessed as they are as medical technology on the earth, they use the systems that you and I have in our body already. So your beautiful, blessed machinery of your physical body, under the command of your spirit, as we're going to see later, is constantly protecting us against disease. So we just harness the power of knowing what the immune system does in order for us to create a vaccine that targets, in this case, the COVID-19. So the vaccines, these agents, will stimulate our existing immune system. You have one, I have one, Vanessa and Daisy have one. All of us, if you have a physical body, you have an immune system, and we have different levels of activity of the immune system that we can do. And the immune system creates immunity against a pathogen. And this immunity is built by cells in our bodies, so that our bodies can recognize and destroy the pathogen or these harmful agents the next time you see. It's all about protection. So we know something that can harm us, we create this agent that uses the machinery of our cells that is working even though we're not even aware of it. The immune system works in the same way as your heart works, your respiration works, that you are doing it, but you're not actively thinking about it, even though your spirit is commanding the activity of all the cells of your physical body. So before we talk about the vaccine, the coronavirus vaccine, as we said, it triggers your immune system. So your immune system is composed of cells, tissues, and organs. That's what we are made of, that protect us against viruses and bacteria, that in this case, I'm using the nerd term, pathogens. The immune system constantly scans day and night for these foreign agents that could harm us. So it has the ability to distinguish between what's yours and what's not yours. In this case, what's a coronavirus versus what's your cell. And if it works well, that's what it does. If it's not working well, it can even trigger autoimmune disease. When your body recognizes something as foreign, but it really belongs to you. Not topic for today, but I just want you to think about you're doing this no matter what. So it is important for us to understand that our immune system will produce these antibodies that will give us short and long-term protection. And different vaccines give us different types of protection. And that's why you and I, when we were a child, we got vaccinated. And then as our adult lives grow, we grow and we go about our days, we have boosters. And that allows our body to remember and keep that memory within us, because it's all about, recognizing the agents. So our immune systems are designed probably by divine providence and the divine creatures that helped us shape the physical body that we have now to remember this disease agent and fight it next time it encounters it. So it's really a beautiful way that the science of today allows us to harness something that already works, that nobody came from afar and introduced to the earth. It's really about knowing how our physical body works so that we can be a good agent of the good in our lives. So by knowing this, we have to think a little bit about what I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to go deep down into the cells of your physical body that are working right now. I want you to think about you being a multidimensional being. As Vanessa said, we have the spiritual part. Your spirit is guiding each and every molecule of your paraspiritual body, that in turn is guiding the activity of your physical body. That's why it's important to understand that everything that you and I do, our biological processes, are commanded by our spirit. And that's why it's important for us to watch out how we are doing in terms of our spiritual life and nourishing their spiritual life within us. And this is from the book Evolution in 2 Words. If I haven't mentioned before, everything that I'm talking about to you today can be found on the CDC website, the FDA website, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Food and Drug Administration, and the World Health Organization. So those are very commanding, very reputable institutions that work in the background to protect you and I. So when we are making this vaccine, this is what we do. We study what the COVID does in your left side of your screen. And then the scientists, inspired, no doubt, by the superior spirits that work, if you are following that aptitude, if you're doing what you love, the good spirits will be with us. No doubt they are inspiring the scientists to work in the medicine of the earth. So they identify the spike protein as being this agent that is required by the virus to infect and make us sick. Therefore, once the spike protein DNA was produced, another beautiful thing about the technology of today, when someone finds something in science, we can publish it so other scientists can work on it. It is beautiful earthly collaboration, because as we know, coronavirus started on the earth, in a specific part of the earth, and then they published the DNA. And by knowing the DNA of an organism, we can work to try to understand it. And then we make a spike protein antigen. And antigen is just a substance that triggers the immune system. It can be a virus, it can be a bacteria, no matter what those organisms are. So those are a little bit of the terms that I need you to understand in order for us to think about the vaccine. So there are more conventional vaccines, just like the flu vaccine and other vaccines you take. There are what we call conventional, because they bring us the inactivated form of the pathogen, introduce it into our bodies, we build immunity, and we are protected. And then the coronavirus vaccines use messenger RNA and adenovirus vaccine technology. This technology is not new, has been used in other vaccines, has been studied extensively. What is new here is that we are targeting this technology to the COVID-19 specifically. And the beauty of knowing the DNA of COVID-19 is that we can identify the variant, and because it's From DNA, you can make messenger RNA. From messenger RNAs, as you're going to say, you make the protein. We can change the vaccine over time and produce new vaccines to give us boosters in the future if we need those boosters. So it's important for us to understand this is happening all the time within us. And now we're just introducing the novelty of a coronavirus. So when you go to the vaccination site to sign up on the Department of Health here in Virginia, you sign up, you get your appointment, you receive the COVID vaccine. Somehow, in this case, I'm going to specifically talk about the messenger RNA vaccines, which are the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. The Johnson & Johnson vaccines use adenovirus. It's on pause right now, but it would be the same thing. I'm just illustrating with one type. So when you receive that shot on your muscle, you will go down. That messenger RNA, now what I'm showing this to you here, the messenger RNA, the single strand of nucleic acid. So that is encapsulated with fat cells, fat molecules, because our cells are covered with fat on the outside, so that it can enter the cell. So the messenger RNA will enter the cell. So this part here that is a different color is representing a fictitious cell, and the blue is the nucleus where your DNA is in this case. So the messenger RNA enters the cells. Inside the cells, there have many other proteins called enzymes that allow for the messenger RNA to replicate. So it makes copies, it makes copies that is happening to all of the other proteins in your body. And then messenger RNAs carry the code for that spike protein that you see in all of the pictures, the beautiful spike protein around the coronavirus vaccine. And that's what the virus used to infect the cell. So if we can target that, therefore we can see it, your body can see it as the virus and go fight it. So our cells make this spike protein and then expose those proteins on the surface of the cells. And the immune system is able to see, hey, there's something there that doesn't belong to you. Then they go in, several different types of cells, mainly phagocytes and leukocytes, recognize this antigen as not belonging to us, as a possible disease, and the body will build immunity. And those are the molecules you see here, those Y-shaped illustrations represent the antibodies that you and I can produce when we are creating the immunity for the COVID-19. So when the body creates this immunity for you and I, antibodies are formed, and then we have short and long-term memory. What we call immune memory is created. What does that mean? It means that the immune system, the cells of the immune system, there are many, who are able to recognize COVID-19 or another pathogen in the case of other vaccines. And when it encounters it later, as Vanessa said, the virus is in the air, literally. It's everywhere you go. That's why we do this, for prevention. So now your body is equipped with the chemical machinery, because these are proteins, that will recognize it, and then it will trigger a whole immune response that will allow you to have this physical, in this case, it's invisible because you would have to look inside your bloodstream and detect the antibody levels. And then next time you are in contact with COVID, what would happen? You would be protected. Your body would say, oh, here's a foreign agent, because the body knows what the spike protein looks like. You will target it. There's a whole cascade of beautiful events that allows us to fight the disease. Either we will have very little virus around with us in order to protect us from becoming very ill or dying, or even having no symptoms, to preventing us from passing the virus to someone else, which is also another obligation that we have to do. So in sum, how do vaccines protect us? With no doubt, it's my personal opinion, is one of the most important inventions in human history is the vaccine. An ability for us to understand what could harm us. It has saved millions of lives, as Daisy, who works in public health, will tell you. And vaccines protect us because it uses your immune system, my immune system, to protect us, and more important, our loved ones. And here you have the representation. It is you being part of the community. So if you are protected, you not only you don't get sick, or if you get sick, your severity of the disease is less and you won't need hospitalization and eventually die, but you also protect those who live with you, those who come in contact with you. This is a duty that you and I have to do. Vaccines save lives, millions of them yearly. It saves many of our lives because we have been vaccinated when we are young, and it prevents diseases of all kinds. And that's what I have for you in terms of the scientific part of it.
Wow, what a great summary. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I want to explore this slide more fully just to reinforce. As we said at the beginning, when the good spirits, Emmanuel said, allow a discovery to is brought forth, it's because it's beneficial to us. When we hear the ignorant voices of people claiming that people are becoming billionaires because they are creating vaccines, this is the voice of rebellious, poor people who envy the billionaires. Because scientists who work in producing vaccines, the scientists who really create these mechanisms, they don't have billions of dollars in their pocket.
No.
We're here in science, the three of us, and we know none of us are billionaires. And if you want to be a scientist and be a billionaire, forget it. That's not the pathway to big bucks. So the minds that are being the vessels to these discoveries, which always happen in the spiritual plane first and then manifest in the physical, they are only allowed to discover what we can discover for humanity. So if a vaccine came this fast, it's a blessing. And if there's any doubt, feel free to ask your question. Right now, since there are questions already being asked by many people, myths, we're going to pass the word to Daisy, who works in public health and is going to lead us into the way to understand, to debunk the myths, right, Daisy?
Yes. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And thank you, Shane, for breaking down this complex process for all of us. And as Vanessa mentioned, we want to bring a few points tonight for us to talk about the myths, because as the vaccines became available towards the end of last year and now are more and more being widespread throughout the world, a lot of myths came about and are being propagated, especially through our social media nowadays. And we're bringing tonight some scientific aspects for all of us to educate ourselves, to think, and to share with others, because we don't want to be one of those who are spreading misinformation. So before we ourselves are those who are transmitting misinformation, let us inform ourselves. So similar to Shane, the information that we're bringing tonight we're taking directly from the websites of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States, the World Health Organization, and also scientific literature. So it's using the scientific facts to really debunk the myths for all of us. So the very first myth that we hear is that the COVID-19 vaccines were developed too fast, and because of it, its effectiveness and safety cannot be trusted. We hear that a lot nowadays. So let us break this down so that we can understand, as Shane just mentioned to us, that the vaccines are very safe and are very effective. We have been using vaccines for years now, for a really long time. And the COVID-19 vaccine, it didn't skip any of the testing steps. It went through the very same steps that we usually go through. yes, they were accelerated in some ways to help us because we're facing an unprecedented pandemic that is affecting all of us. But the clinical trials that are needed, there are several phases that these clinical trials need to go through to be able to then be reviewed by the data, the information is then reviewed by panels of subject matter experts, scientists that don't have no relationship with the companies who are developing those vaccines. So, and they make all that data available so the science can then go there and look for that information. So what happened? Why were we able to produce a vaccine so fast? Thank goodness we were. It was really a collaborative effort. It's really scientists coming together. There was a lot of investments made through government agencies throughout the World Health Organization, and also foundations who really support, because it is not it's an expensive process to go through and develop. It requires many, many tests and many scientists who spend and are spending 24/7 trying to study this virus. So the companies that began making the vaccine also earlier in the process, they were able to have those access, as Shane said, to the DNA of the virus so that they could right away start developing those vaccines. And at the same time, the government of countries, they were already producing the vaccines, even though they were not authorized yet. So that's why as soon as the scientific community said, let's go ahead, they gave the green light, they already have stockpiles of the vaccines ready to be shipped. So it was a combination of things, but nothing was skipped at any point. The vaccine, the safety of the vaccine, it is safe and is it effective? So the second myth is that getting the COVID vaccine will actually give you the disease, will give you COVID. And as Shane just beautifully explained to all of us, this is actually not true. It's completely wrong. The vaccine for COVID-19 cannot and will not give you the disease itself, because we are receiving just part. We're a trigger so that our body can recognize the virus. So the COVID-19 does not contain the SARS-CoV-2 virus itself, and consequently, it cannot give you the COVID-19. You cannot get it from the vaccine itself. What happens, what Shane explained to all of us, is that when you take the virus, it triggers an immune response in our system so that we are then able to recognize once we come in contact with the virus, our body already has a memory and is able to quickly detect it and fight it. So, but then what happens? As we go through this process, it is naturally for our body to go through, and we might experience some symptoms, not because we are sick because of the virus, but is our immune system. It means that our immune system is working. So those signs and symptoms, and you hear people nowadays saying, oh, I got the vaccine and I got a fever, I got a body ache. So those symptoms are actually very normal, right? All of us have gone through and experienced vaccines. We vaccine our children, and we see that, yes, the first day or two when you get the vaccine, is normal for our body to have a slight fever. Some of the most common symptoms is the body aches or pain in the site of infection. But that is expected, and it's actually a very good sign. And if you talk with those who actually have gone through the disease itself and experienced the virus, they will attest to you that is much, much different. those who have gone through and got sick with COVID-19, it's much, much worse. So yes, maybe a day or two that we're feeling under the weather is actually great, means our body is working, and comparing to really going through these illnesses, which none of us wants to go through that process. So then it brings us to the next myth, because then people say, well, does the side effects of the vaccine, are they dangerous? Right? A lot of people, they are scared to get the vaccine because they think then the side effects are too dangerous. So as we just mentioned, vaccines, they can have some side effects, but it's very short term and it's not anything serious and dangerous. So it means that our body is working. It means that we have that system and it's working. And when vaccines go through the process to be approved, the scientists are outweighing. So it's like they have a scale and they're weighing the benefits of getting the vaccine, right? And also outweighing with the risks. Like any medication, they will come with certain risks, but the benefits are much, much better. And then you might be asking, but well, I just heard on the news that some companies like the Johnson and Johnson, they had to pause in the vaccine because there were some side effects that were associated with it. And what we say and what we see in the literature is that what we need to keep in mind is that if you look at those very, very few cases, the scientific community is being extra cautious right now. And this afternoon, a big panel of scientists just deliberated for hours and hours, and they came to the conclusion that the benefits it's still are much, much better than the risks. So they're able to put that vaccine back and made it available for all of us. And if you look at the data, you see that the chances of us getting, in this case, a blood clot from the vaccine, it's actually, we are more prone to be hit by a lightning than actually getting that from the vaccine itself. So it's very, very rare, friends. Here, we're just being extra, extra careful and cautious, which is great, is to show all of us that all around the world and in the US, we're just being careful about the vaccine. Then the next question, the next myth, and I've seen this a lot, the vaccine would change my DNA, right? A lot of people think that. And going back to what Shane beautifully explained to us, the vaccines, they do not change, and they actually don't interact at all with our DNA. If you remember the diagram that Shane just showed to us, when the genetic material of the vaccine, it penetrates the cell and it leads to that chain of reactions. It never goes inside the nucleus of the cell. And in the nucleus of the cell, that's where our DNA is. So that genetic material never comes in contact with our DNA. So they cannot affect, and they're not going to change our DNA. They're not going to change who we are. And all the vaccines, they work with our body's natural defense, as Shane described it to all of us. It works with the beautiful system. It's a divine system because we would not able to replicate anything like that. Our bodies, if you look at the way the systems that are inbuilt, all of us are born with it, it's really divine. So all the vaccine is doing is working with the systems we already have in our bodies. And then we also hear this question a lot. Well, I already had COVID-19, so I don't need to get the vaccine, right? Well, this is actually a myth. The recommendation of the scientific community is that everyone should be vaccinated, regardless whether you had the COVID-19 or not. And why is the reason behind it? Well, we're still getting to know about this virus. So we know that if you get sick with COVID-19, what we call natural immunity, it might last for a little bit. But what we see now more often has really the newest the research literature that is coming out is that immunity, it might last for a little bit, but then as the time goes on, that immunity goes down. So it is still very important for those who get sick to benefit from getting the vaccines. And scientists right now actually believe that the immunity we receive from the vaccine is even better than the protection that we receive from actually acquiring the coronavirus. So regardless if you had the virus or not, it is recommended that you still get the vaccine. We would add a note here because the CDC recommends if you recently had COVID-19 that you wait about 90 days, 3 months, until you can actually get the vaccine. That is the recommendation of the CDC, because when you get sick with COVID-19, your body, the antibodies in your body are still very high. So if you take the vaccine, it's not at the ideal time. So the ideal is that you wait about 3 months so that your antibodies have come down. But it's still very recommend that you still get the vaccine, even if you had the COVID-19. And then our last myth of tonight is, well, I have been vaccinated, so yay, that's great. Now I can travel, I can stop wearing a mask, I can stop taking precautions, right? And the vaccine, friends, is just a reminder for us, is one of the tools that we have. It's one of the tools. But to fight this pandemic, as Vanessa was telling us from the beginning, we need to use all the tools in our toolbox. If we think about our toolbox, we have many tools and some even to come that we don't even know yet. The vaccine is something that we can do in the material world, that are spiritual tools that Vanessa is going to tell us more what we can do to strengthen ourselves, but it's just one of them. We still need to keep taking the precautions we have been taking because it's a new virus. We're still getting to know how long we're going to be immunized for. The virus is changing, is mutating, which is natural for a virus. So it doesn't mean that if we take the vaccine, we'll be completely free from and go about our lives as if nothing is happening. So we recommend everyone to get the vaccine, but continue wearing your mask, continue practicing social distancing from those that are outside your family, and wash our hands, friends. Hand washing is so vital that if the pandemic is just showing to us how vital hand washing is. And just looking at the data, we see that the flu season this past year was so low. And scientists believe it's because people now are washing their hands much more frequent. Of course, the social distancing helps too, but it's a practice that it's simple, has soap and water. And you sing a happy birthday song, and that's it. That's all you need. But that's so important for all of us to continue practicing and taking those precautions. So we want to share with you some additional considerations. Vaccines are one of the most successful tools for protecting public health, as Shane just shared with us. So we have been using vaccines for years. And the beauty of the vaccine is because it prevents us from getting the disease. It's really hard for us to measure, how many people we can have research and try to understand, but there's no way for us to see, well, if we haven't had the vaccine, how many cases of the disease we would have, right? So it's a great tool, and that's why we don't give it the necessary importance, because so many diseases have been eliminated because we have been able to use vaccines in the past. So protect yourself, but most important, once we get the vaccine, we're protecting those around us, because it's believed that about 30 to 40% of cases are asymptomatic. So what we see happening a lot right now is that people get sick, but they have no symptoms. So then as they come in contact with others, they are not only spreading the virus, but they're getting those around them at risk and spreading the virus to others. So by getting the vaccine, we're not only protecting ourselves, but we're protecting our loved ones, especially those at increased risk for the severe illnesses. Also, we'll say for those in the US, your immigration status should not prevent you from getting the vaccine. And I have the opportunity to work with local health departments across the nation, and I ask them this question, and they explain it that the reason why they ask for a form of ID is only to keep track in the system so that they know which vaccine you got, so when you come back, they can give you the same vaccine. But some places across the US are already accepting any type of ID, and some places are even not requiring you to show an ID, because they're really, the importance right now is to get as many people as we can vaccinated. So don't feel scared that your immigration status will be affected if you go and get a vaccine or not. And last but not least, friends, if you have questions or concerns, talk to your doctor, trust the scientific community, call your health department. The most important, rely on science and let us stop spreading this rumor and these myths that are not based on science. And here are some resources. If you are in the United States, you can go to vaccinefinder.org. There you can find locations across the US that are offering the vaccine. You can schedule your appointment there. It's a one-stop place, so definitely go to vaccinefinder.org, and you can use the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the World Health Organization has resources. But most important is that we protect ourselves, we protect our loved ones, and then we get vaccinated. So with that, I will pass it back to Vanessa.
So thank you so much, Daisy and Shane. Let's be together here to bring back the spiritist understanding of it all. So as Shane and Daisy brought to us, according to the studies, vaccines are a blessing. This anti-vax movement is ridiculous, to tell the truth, because it's completely, there is no scientific evidence for any vaccine. When people say to me, but Vanessa, my child got vaccinated and got this, please, let's not be simplistic. The cases happen for many more reasons. We need to have a full spectrum of the case to understand. But when we see in the greater scale of the population, vaccines, as Shane and Daisy said, according to science, vaccines are very important for public health. When people say, oh, but if you vaccinate, it's not going to protect others. It will protect. So now we need to talk about the spiritual understanding of it all, because we are in a spiritist center here. So let me share just one slide more, just one more. One more in which we're going to revisit the foundation, the laws of God. Okay? Why is it important to understand that we need to vaccinate? Right now, we need to preserve ourselves. The law of preservation, read in the Spirit's book by Kardec. If The only resource I have now against the coronavirus is the vaccine. I need to take it. If I don't, what does it mean? I'm suicidal. Why? Because I don't know if I can handle the virus. I know people who are so suicidal that they say, I wanna catch this coronavirus. I wanna be sick and get done and over with it. This is suicidal thinking. If we go to the book Non Solar by André Luiz, we see that there is indirect suicide and direct suicide. In a way, it's almost like direct suicide. When people create parties to say, let's see if we get sick, it's suicidal. If they walk in the street saying, I want to get sick, so I get done and over, I won't get sick again. No, you will, because there are variants, and you don't know if you're there yet. So it's suicidal not to find a way to preserve, protect yourself. It's our duty before God. God gave us the physical body. It's our most important material asset. It's not your house. It's not your children. It's not your family. It's not anything but your physical body. Without the physical body, we cannot be here. We cannot be here. So if I now, since April 19th, in the US, I have, for my age group, the possibility of being vaccinated, I need to talk to my doctor and see my health status. Can I, if I have any question, because if you're doing well, there's no question. Just go and schedule your vaccine. But if I don't vaccinate, I am at the risk of being suicidal. If I discarnate because I didn't take the precautions, I will be considered suicidal, a suicidal spirit. And when we talk about vaccine, in a way, let's go to the law of society now, before the law of destruction. When we talk about our responsibility before the group that is with us, when we vaccinate and protect ourselves, we're guaranteeing as well that the people that rely on us, that depend on us, they are there. Because if I discarnate today and the people in my life, for any case, I'm a provider for my family, or whether I am an emotional provider or a material provider, I will be considered irresponsible for discarnating or being severely sick or even impaired, because there are many people who recover after severe illness of COVID-19. But now they have to linger with those sequelae of the disease in itself. And everybody is affected. So I needed to have this greater sense of social responsibility. It's not only about me, it's about the whole. And it's also about, when we talk about the vaccine, we're talking about embracing a principle that God created, the law of destruction. As Emmanuel said in the book of the Consoler, it's a mechanism that is created also to help us in our natural immune system that is prepared to destroy what is not appropriate for us. So the vaccine is a blessing, and it belongs to the laws of God. When people doubt the beauty of a vaccine, it's time to research, to understand more, and to rid ourselves of our ignorance. It's about personal responsibility, social responsibility, and submission to God's laws. Because the mechanism of the vaccine in itself, as Shane showed to us, belongs to the natural laws of life. Our immune system is created to destroy what is foreign. So we need to give it a boost to say, when you see that, it's like programming your body. Destroy it. Law of destruction. It's God's law. So when we understand it all, we become more empowered to face it. So we need to go one by one with people that we know and explain to them that greater sense of it all, especially people who are in the group risks. We need to pay close attention, all right? So now, before we continue, we have more to share. Let me see, John DeRosa here is saying, whether you have a reaction or not from the vaccine shots, you're still protected, correct? Yes, Shane?
You should be. So each and every one of us will respond differently, but the research shows that we are most likely protected. And that's why Daisy was saying, because COVID is a droplet transmission, meaning it will be in small particles when you cough, when you sneeze, when you talk. That's the social responsibility. Even if you had the vaccine and you have some level of protection, remember, each immune system is unique. They all do the same, but you're a spirit that is different from mine. And that's why you go to the doctor. If you have an autoimmune disease, you want to make sure you can, or other comorbidities. And then that's why thinking about your distance to others, wearing a mask, washing your hands so you're not passing it along. So, in the only way to truly know if you're protected, John, is to get the antigen test, which we're not doing. Basically, we can't really test 300 million people in the US, but yeah. So that's what testing is very important, because you can just be healthy in the beginning. Healthy young people were out there, and as Vanessa was saying, people were just saying, not thinking about others, because even though it won't stop it may not stop transmission, but it will reduce the transmission. The vaccine works to make me not, so I will still encounter COVID likely, but I won't get the disease, which is the symptoms, the respiratory problems. Then if I have less virus on me and I'm wearing a mask, then I reduced my possibility of bringing home to my family, or to the cashier, or to the bus driver, or whoever comes our way, because we have to really think about others when we come to this point.
Yes. So we have here a comment by Anton Pia talking about people should get vaccinated and our responsibility, again, as he said. So right now, we are not sure if we have answered all the questions that people may have, but Spiritism is very straightforward in embracing the progress of science. Since Kardec's time, we know that the good spirits advised him that if science at any point said anything contrary, he should not listen to the spirits and go with science. And why is that? Because science is not a game. Yeah, I agree, there are people who play games in science, but we're talking about the overall. When the findings come out, we know it has already been peer reviewed. There are people who claim, oh, but science sometimes is wrong. Well, we would say yes, but in the case of COVID vaccine, it's a consensus in the international community, and it has been seen by the millions, hundreds of millions of people who have been vaccinated around the world, that it is bringing the numbers down. The problem now is people get vaccinated and they relax in the use of masks, the other prevention tools, as Daisy said. It's a toolbox. We cannot, because we're not killing the virus. The vaccine, we said at the beginning, is not spraying the virus out of the earth. We wish we could just hold our breath and spray it out. No. The vaccine is not shooing away the virus from the air. It's just protecting us to deal with the virus within us when we encounter. So it's true. The virus is going to stay with us probably until the end of times. And the variants of coronavirus and more. So now, spiritually speaking, we need to have a conversation about what this all means for us. In Brazil, there is a book that is not yet in English by the medium Divaldo Franco and the spirit Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, named No Rumo do Mundo de Regeneração. However, they are going to translate it, On the Road to the World of Regeneration or not. That's the title. It talks about the behind the scenes of the coronavirus pandemic. And we come to know that these vaccines, they are preventing us in regards to future pandemics. It's not only about this. The way our medical technology is being expedited now is helping us with future issues that are being foreseen by the greatest minds in science. So when people ask me, yesterday somebody asked me, when is this going to be over? I don't know. One thing we know is that if this pandemic has not changed your priorities, your lifestyle, your dynamic, this pandemic's not going to be over, because it's supposed to be purifying our priorities. The main purpose of the coronavirus, according to the superior spirits, is to change our priorities. It has to be less materialistic, and spiritism comes to destroy materialism. These are not my words. The words of the spirits at Kardec's time, as published in the Spirit's book at the Law of Progress. So we need to destroy materialism. But are we? No, because people are dreaming about mingling, getting together. They are dreaming about traveling and getting out. I can't stand anymore being at home. And we're creating new variants. No wonder Brazil is one of the countries that is the worst, because people don't stop mingling. And the more we mingle, the more we create variants. And here we are having variants that now are affecting younger babies and young children. If now young children barely get sick, now we already have on earth the variant of coronavirus that is already affecting our children. So here we have a warning. It's a spiritual warning. We need to change our lives. I remember a year ago when this all started, in the first months, when we had super lockdowns in the US, a couple came to me and said, our lives haven't changed. Yeah, it didn't change anything for us, and they were proud of it. Okay, so wait, because the pandemic is not over. And a year later, it's not over. And if we're dodging, trying to escape this virus, it has a collective mission to change all of us. Change in what sense? Our earth is entering a new phase. The school of our earth is going to graduate. If we're here and we don't belong to this group, we're out. The pandemic is one of the last shakeups. One of the last, not the last. Super shakeups to see if we are going to stay or be invited to another school, in another planet, in another solar system, another galaxy, far away from loved ones. This is exactly what Spiritism says. It's a warning. So to vaccinate is the least we can do. The very least. Very least. But it's not sufficient. What more can we do? Please go to our program tonight at 11 p.m. because there is a message by the Spirit Mimi that we share in which she talks about what we need to do. She says we need to think of others. It's time that we stop this thing about me, my mind, spending the whole day thinking, what do I want to eat? What do I want to do? What do I want? It's not about us. It's about others who are in need. Right now, there are many people who are sick in spite of the vaccine. There are many people who are tired caring for others because people don't stop either. Go to the hospitals, talk to the nurses. They're going to say, we're tired. People don't stop. And we see people are still denying the fact that the coronavirus is reality. They talk about conspiracy theories. And the worst is when we see spiritists during this service of promoting conspiracy theories with no proof whatsoever. Because if you have a proof, call the FBI, call the CIA, call whomever you want to give the proof, because at this point, nobody is talking about this. We're talking about the fact that people are sick. And that's why the last slide is about a new proposal from the Spirit side of Virginia, when we want to give one more step, which is to give a hand to those who are experiencing COVID-19. It's a very strange disease. It's a very challenging disease. It's not like a flu. Nothing compares to it. It's something that really shakes us up. And Spiritism, as Emilio says, has the resources to give us a hand. So starting this Monday, the Spiritist side of Virginia has a special program to support COVID-19 patients and their parents. Of course, it's virtual, but we have a specific program that we have somewhat tested, and it works. And you may be asking, what is it? The power of positive thinking, the power of prayer, the power of togetherness, the power of spiritual passes, of spiritual treatments that can be done at a distance. And this can be a first aid kit that can be given to COVID patients from beginning to end of their disease, including after discarnation, if that's the case, for them and their families. We are preparing a whole package to release to people one-on-one. So if you know anybody or yourself, contact us at the website ssvirginia.org or the email info@ssvirginia.org for you to get in touch with this spiritual first aid kit to help, to support at this hour. You and I need to forget about ourselves, forget about this need to think about, oh, I can't stand it anymore, and look for people. Like we've heard in Brazil, the person who coordinates Professor Lipert's Barçanufo Centenary School, Alzira Bessa, she's the director, the coordinator of all the projects in the center, and she said that in a family in the city of Sacramento, Brazil, one family, 5 family members died of COVID-19, which is very shocking to the family and to a small city as well. And we're talking about people. When you get sick, you don't have strength to work, to care for yourself, for your family, barely. And think of the people who are sick and have their families, and they need to eat, care for their homes, care for their things. And where are we? Thinking of a vacation? Thinking of when this is gonna end? It shows the level of our selfishness. When we're thinking about celebrating something, there's nothing to celebrate. Because there are people who right now are in need. are in need. Daniel Pion, thank you, John DeRosa, for your feedback, for your support. And Daniel Pion is saying, if you don't take the vaccine, you may allow the virus to mutate into a new strain that the current vaccines cannot deal with. Then you may be indirectly responsible for all consequential deaths from it. Thanks. Right, Shane and Daisy? You want to say something about it? Yeah, makes sense, right? What Daniel is saying.
Yes.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it absolutely makes sense. And before coming here, I was reading this book, Evolution in Two Worlds, because there is a chapter in the end if people want to know more about microbial invasions. And there, Andrea Luiz is also saying that, the imbalance of our mental energies can lower our response to diseases. And at the end, he will say the importance of this vibratory assistance and protection that we receive when we are doing good things to others. And not only this virus, but anytime, as Vanessa said in the beginning, you're doing something that you put in yourself at risk and put others at risk. You're being, when we are here responsibly sharing information about the vaccine, you are responsibly acting towards the good, because the anti-vaxxer movement starts with someone who falsified data as a scientist who lost his medical license. So that's the kind of infraction we are talking about that has propagated a snowball that has cost many lives, and now we are battling it, as you know, in Public Health Days, so definitely we need to think about, what am I doing, what am I taking, and what can I give more? Because that's really what, in the book which you're saying, the Mundo de Generação, they talk about the fear and how fear can attract this, not just Corona, but all kinds of spiritual companions, that now you have these thoughts and you have this selfishness. So definitely we need to not be responsible for others' deaths, because we're not God. God determines when we pass on, right, Daisy?
Right, Daisy?
That's
Thank
right. And as Shane was bringing this insight to all of us, it reminds me of the question the Spirit's book, an answer that says that we'll be responsible for the good that we left undone. So we will be responsible, as Daniel is reminding us, if we don't, not only the vaccine, but if we don't take precautions, if we don't wear a mask, if we don't practice social distance, we are being co-responsible for those that might potentially get sick. And we, as Vanessa explained at the beginning, that in our conscience, it's gonna be with us for, we don't know how many lives, until we're able to actually come at peace with that decision. So it's so important that we cannot emphasize it enough.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to bring our friends who are here with us, Carol, Luciana, Paloma, and Camila. So we all together finalize this moment, as we said, and Shane beautifully reminded us of this last chapter of the book, Evolution into Worlds, the mind. Remember, friends, when we get sick, usually we think, since ancient times, go to the book 2,000 years ago, oh, I'm being punished, I'm a bad person. No. Emmanuel in the book, The Consoler, says, no. When you get sick, it's because you're ready to purify yourself. It's God's opportunity for you to transform something in you, because if you're not ready for it, you're not going to go through it. It may be a blessing in disguise, because it awakes us in so many ways. Of course, we don't want to get sick, but if we do, we cannot be in this poor linear thinking. I get sick, I'm a bad person, I'm being punished, I'm guilty. Please. In Spiritism, and there's a beautiful article by Sueli Kadosh-Schubert many years ago. It's a cover page in the Spiritist magazine. She talks about the beauty of illnesses as true merit for the spirit that is expunging vibratory disturbances to the physical body, things that we no longer needed to carry in our perispirit. So we need to really change the way we feel about it all and to change the way we deal with this pandemic. It's time to reach out to people in all the possible ways, materially, emotionally, spiritually. And that's why right now we invite everyone to join us as we collectively do the spiritual passes and pray, because these are certainly powerful tools to help us stay aligned, heal, and it's truly therapeutic. We would like to ask Luciana, right, to lead us into the passes, followed by Carol with the final prayer.
So let us close our eyes and do the spiritual immunization with Master Jesus as you take care of your body. We allow the love and the healing energies of the spiritual realm to bless us and heal us. Let us now open our hearts so we can really receive the spiritual treatment that has been prepared for us throughout this session. Breathing in and out, we allow the healing energies comes inside of us, cleansing, collecting all unnecessary energies, connections that we need. Breathing out, we let go of everything unnecessary. As we visualize our body healthy, we can feel the connection with our Master as He prepares us to be strong, loving, and be ready to receive this nourishing that our soul is always looking everywhere but cannot find if we don't make this loving connection. We can see our spiritual body being healed together with the physical body, giving us this vaccination, this strength that our spiritual body needs, that together with the physical vaccine we need to go through this pandemic. God loves us and sent all the energies to heal us. And as we allow this flow of love to heal us, we visualize the whole planet Earth enveloped in this healing light, also allowing the loving vibration to envelop everyone in this planet, in both realms of life. And as we let this flow of love, this healing energy showering on us, we feel lighter and connect to the divine in us and with the divine around us. We can feel and see our light shining together with Christ. And as we continue receiving this love, these healing energies, in gratitude of all these blessings, we pray with our dear friend Carol.
Feeling embraced by the divine love that shines within us, we pray to God in gratitude for the gift of life and in gratitude for all the advances that God has allowed material science to achieve due to God's mercy and love for each and every one of us. Tonight we pray so that God blesses us with a wider vision of life. And we pray so that God helps us to rid ourselves from the virus of selfishness and pride. May we vaccinate ourselves with the light of charity, with the light of indulgence, with the light of benevolence. And may we pray so that we learn to reach out to others. And in this effort, we visualize Master Jesus reaching out his arms to everyone who is ill at this moment. As we pray for every one of COVID-19 patients around the planet, we would like to pray for their families as well. We pray so that Master Jesus' compassionate heart envelops those who have discarnated. We pray so that he reaches out for all doctors, nurses, therapists, hospital facilities. And we also pray for those who lack the very resources we have been given. We pray so that we learn to count our blessings and to make use of our blessings. We finalize these moments by thanking God for its mercy, and we pray so that we are able to free ourselves from the pandemic of selfishness and learn to value life in all of its dimensions. And so be it.
Thank you, friends, for being here with us. Of course, there is much more for us to learn together, but the main message is, as Carol said in the prayer, the vaccine of love, of charity. This is what we need to spread out as well, and to reach out to so many people who are in great need right now. If you still have any question, write to us or a comment at kardecradio@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to listen from you and talk to you. For now, we wish you many blessings, and until next time.